My name is Ed Young. I'm the Executive Director of the Aerospace Center for Excellence. The Aerospace Center for Excellence is the 20-acre campus on the south end of the Lakeland Linder International Airport, which includes the Florida Air Museum, the Central Florida Aerospace Academy, the Tom Davis Educational Center, the Piedmont Laboratory, the Bueller Aviation Restoration Center, and a fully functional 727 classroom. The Florida Air Museum is dedicated to aviation in Florida. It's actually been declared by the state of Florida to be the official aviation museum and education center. We try to collect artifacts that are related to Florida history. The Bueller Restoration Center is directly across the street from the Florida Air Museum. In April of last year, we received a giant box with hundreds of parts in it, and we are now constructing an aircraft. And that aircraft is being specifically designed to help people with disabilities, particularly paraplegics and quadriplegics, learn how to fly. The program that we're using, Able Flight, has put wings on over 100 pilots so far that have disabilities. The great thing about the program is that when you're in the air, you are simply a pilot. You are not a paraplegic, you're not a quadriplegic, you're a pilot. And the avionics are mounted into this and then mounted to a TV bracket. So basically what you can do is come up with your wheelchair, position yourself, put yourself in the aircraft, and then pull the avionics panel back across to you. There's also a bar right here that it's not back from the metal shop, but there's a bar right here that controls the rudders. That way, if you don't have use of your legs, you can still control the airplane. And then there's a center bar that controls the ailerons. So everyone who works in the Florida Air Museum has a different specialty or different interest. As it happens, I'm an aviation historian, and I love the ones that are tied deeply to history, including the Baby Laird, which was built in 1913 by Matty Laird, who became one of the most innovative individuals in terms of the golden age of aviation. He hired a few people that aviation people are familiar with: Clyde Cessna, Lloyd Stearman, and Walter Beach. The International Council of Airshow Performers has their Hall of Fame here. There are airshow planes. In fact, there's an airshow plane right above me, the Red Baron. I do love the Baby Laird. Matty Laird was absolutely essential in terms of Kansas aviation. Kansas is actually considered the air capital of the world because so many of the aircraft are still produced there. 85% of all of the general aviation fleet are still produced in Kansas. Well, Matty Laird, he was crazy if you think about it. He took parts off of a bicycle, he took a glider wing that he had, he put them together, and at the time in 1913, he was earning $300 per flight, which is about 10 grand a day just to fly that thing. Katherine Johnson borrowed his next version of that called the Bone Shaker, and she flew it in China and Japan and really convinced people in that part of the world that that was a legitimate way to travel. Air travel was going to be the next big thing. I do love that plane. I climb in it every time I get a chance. The other really super cool one, the Ford Flivver back there. So Ford really had this notion that they were going to create the Model T of airplanes, and they did a Ford reliability tour in 1926, 1927. They really thought that plane was gonna be parked in everybody's garage. The Peyton Pole, I love the Peyton Pole. So originally when they built the Peyton Poles, they used Model T engines, and the radiator would sit in front of you. So you had to land it by guess, by feel, by looking out the side of the plane because the engine was right directly in front of you. That plane flew in here, and all those awards that you see in front of that plane were awards that plane won because it was so cool. The design was so neat, and it was so true to the history. But that's a pretty amazing plane. The Florida Air Museum is a unique collection of specifically Florida items and then a little bit of militaria. So you have a chance to walk into the history of Florida, trace the roots of some great aviators from across the state, see some of the airplanes that really made a huge difference in terms of the development of aviation. The very first commercial flight, most people don't know, was a scheduled flight in Tampa Bay. It was a seaplane that flew from one side of the bay to the other. Florida has been incredibly important in terms of aviation because we have so many good days of the year to fly. The reason that the Space Center is here is because this is an awesome place for aviation type weather and aviation development.